Try to bring as much dignity to him as you can.
It's a little late for that, yeah.
Yeah, we'll wait for that.
All right,
Here we go.
Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, starring Jerry Springer, along with Gene Galvin and me. I'm Megan Hills. We're recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky.
My daddy came home
Jerry Springer.
every day. Oh, nicely done. Maria, were you nervous, Maria?
I was extremely nervous.
Oh my gosh, because Megan is slow in coming here, and boy, how quickly you lose your job. Isn't it? Yeah.
We just went immediately into the other room. Let's
ship
hear
sails.
for Maria Corella.
Well done.
But now, let's just say who Maria is.
Yes.
She's a barista here. She has been a friend of this show really from the very beginning. You were one of the first artists. She is a songwriter, singer, and a damn good one, by the way.
Thank you.
Has an album coming out soon.
Yeah.
And just came back from 2 weeks in Mexico.
Correct.
In the Baja.
Yes.
Tell us
Was
quickly
it tough climbing the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard of rock climbing, but this is getting,
Wall climbing. And by the way, she's a rock climber, too, so I suspect you could have gotten over
the
it.
wall.
Could have gotten over
There's
it.
no wall that's going to stop you, Maria.
Nope.
Hey, what were you doing down there? Tell us real fast.
Yeah, so I had a wonderful opportunity given to me by a band actually called Cordovas. One of the guys in the band, Joe Firstman, I opened for the band when they were in town a year ago, and Joe approached me, and he really liked my set, and made this happen. He flew me down, and they lodged me down there,
And where is there?
Oh, it was in Todos Santos, on the Baja Peninsula. So it was at the tip of the Baja Peninsula.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah, on the
I've been
Pacific
down
side.
there. Yeah.
On the Pacific side.
Yeah.
We just talked about it before before we started, and I was telling her my accommodations there were a little nicer. It's gorgeous there. It is gorgeous there.
And you performed for a couple weeks, and
Yeah.
I mean, I followed it on Facebook, and it looked like it was a blast.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, so I stayed in a local hotel for 2 weeks, and then performed shows over the course of those 2 weeks. So probably played about 8 different shows, and teamed up with other musicians around there that they had also flown in. A lot of local musicians from Mexico, a lot of folk music from Mexico.
Oh wow!
Nice. Sounds great.
It was wonderful.
By the way, let's just touch on one other thing while we've got you here. You are representative, and I've talked about this before, of the American songwriter. I think I'm just going to roll this out real fast. Tell me if I've got it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But you got a college degree in environmental studies. Do I have that right?
Yes, correct.
But your passion was music, and you have chosen to follow your passion. So you are a classic artist, American artist, where you do what you have to do to pay the bills, including being one of the prize baristas of Folk School Coffee Parlor. But you're making an album. You perform in multiple groups. You perform literally all over the world. When you consider you now stepped out of the U.S., did it in Mexico. You work a lot, and you at the end of the year pay your taxes. In other words, you're making it work. Are you rich from it? I suspect not. But you're also not.
She lives in Ludlow.
Yeah. I live in Ludlow. Well, yeah. So do I. No, but Maria, isn't that kind of the story of so many around the country of musicians and songwriters?
Yeah, totally.
That's how you do it.
I love that you said that. I mean, it's a wonderful feeling. I can't even describe the feeling that I have, like, being able to support myself, being able to come home to my apartment that I pay for and pay all the bills, and and get to live a really comfortable, happy life. Doing what I love is, I mean, people all the time ask me, like, "Oh, you're gonna make it. I can't wait for you to make it," and all this stuff. And I'm like, I've made it. I'm here.
Good for you.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you told me something the other day when I was just hanging out here at the coffee shop, which I do all the time, and you were working, that this makes you happy, this thing that you're doing, what you just described and what I try to describe too. And if you were doing something else, which you could do, you have, as I say, you're educated, etc., you might be less happy. So this is what makes you happy, but you're pulling it off. You're not, the cops aren't looking for you because of debt you have.
Well, we don't know about
Well, we
Wait
don't
a
know.
second. Yeah.
Maybe not for debt.
What is that circular red light outside? Yeah.
I actually
Anyway,
got scared for a second.
Yeah.
You're welcome to hang out right here with us if you want. If you want to go off and make some coffee, if they tell you. Catfish says he ain't good. Jerry, I wanted to ask you something. First of all, let me tell you, the most asked question at the podcast office that comes in by phone, comes in by email, is the question
Where is this office? How can we do this for almost 3 years now? And I have no idea where we have an office.
We have an office. Where do you think I am?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
where I am.
I don't.
The office is where I am.
Oh, where you are?
Anyway,
Yeah, it's a mobile office.
It's well, no,
like a mobile city hall.
It's
Yeah.
I could take you there. I'm not going to, but I could. Okay, the question that comes in constantly is what shaped Jerry Springer, the professional broadcaster, the man that you are today? And I've had people say, well, he comes from New York City, the hard streets of New York City. Was he a Crip? Was he in a gang? Was he drawn into that? Not that I know of.
Oh.
Was he the star quarterback at Forest Hills High School? Not that I know of. Did he date the head cheerleader? Not that I know of. But isn't it true, I thought I heard this somewhere, that in like grade school, junior high, maybe even in high school, you would sit in your room with a black and white TV on,
Oh, no, I know what
with the New York Yankees playing, turn down the sound, and you did what? Because this, I think, is what shaped your broadcasting chops. Tell the audience what you did.
Well, when I guess I was 11, 12 years old, I loved baseball, but I was never big enough or athletic enough to be able to go to major teams or anything like that through school. So I figured, how can I be involved in baseball if I'm not going to be good enough to really be on big teams? So I could be an announcer. So my parents, for one of my birthdays, got me one of these old, well, back then it was new, a tape recorder, those big spools.
Reel to reel.
Reel
An
to
old
reel.
Reel to reel.
And
Wow.
we had a little black and white television set. So back this is the 1950s in New York. New York had 3 Major League Baseball teams, the Yankees, Dodgers, and Giants. So, and they always televised home games. They didn't televise at that point away games. That was too complicated. But so every single day for 6 months, all through the summer and fall, there was a baseball game on television because one of the 3 teams, and sometimes 2 of the 3 teams, would be at home. And so I would watch every Yankee game, and I would turn off the sound and sit in front of the TV set, and I would broadcast the game into my tape recorder. And I would make the sound effects. I'd go, "Hello there, everybody. This is Gerald Springer, New York Yankee baseball." There's a long drive, hit deep to right. Back goes Bauer. And...
Wow. That's pathetic.
And I just remember my mother walking through, because I didn't have a full room. There was just like a little alcove right outside our bathroom. And she would walk by, and I just remember always saying, "Mashugana." It's Mashugana, because she didn't know what baseball was. She just saw me sitting there watching something, and she had all these tapes, hundreds of tapes.
Damn.
And then I went away to college and threw it all out.
So they're
Because
not,
who thought it would be,
Whoa. So they're not in the Smithsonian or anything like that?
Yeah.
Or the
I could have
Baseball
been
Hall
the
of
Mel
Fame.
Allen of the day.
Wow. They,
And so I say that to my sister,
Yeah.
and I tell Evelyn, "Look, I would never do this show if, she says, "Well, what about me?
Yeah.
You don't mind embarrassing me." Yeah.
And she
Oh,
has
no, I
had to
would never
deal
do
with
it.
that, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Evelyn
And you've
has
kind
had-
of met some family
Yeah,
members,
I have.
and they're so proper.
Yeah.
You know,
They
it
are.
is a different universe than
Yeah.
when I go to work. So it's like,
Yeah. That's pretty interesting, though, because I know I've heard you say this before. You are serious. If they were not alive, this show would not have happened, as we know.
if they were alive, this show.
if
wouldn't
this
have
show
happened.
were alive.
No, they saw me do the news. They were still alive when I did the news, and that they
yeah,
thought
well, because
was,
that's respectable, and
yeah.
you got a
and
law
the mayor
degree
and all that. They
and
saw all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then once they left, that's when I went in the gutter.
It's funny. Isn't it funny? I've been on the side sort of cheerleading for the show because from the show, we do the podcast. I've gotten a few rides on the jet airplane, etc.
Yeah.
You know, so
Now I must say,
I'm not saying you're glad your
would
parents
never-
are dead, but I mean, come on.
Here's what I couldn't have done the show with my mother still alive because she would say, "Oh, Charles," you know. But my dad would be in the bedroom in the back, and when Mom wasn't looking, he'd go, "Yeah."
yeah.
He would have enjoyed it. 'Cause
He would
was-
have enjoyed it.
He was the comedian in the family.
Yeah,
You know, he was.
Would you say that's where, Jerry, where you got your...
Well, telling stupid jokes. That you know, every family has it. You know, the father.
dad jokes.
Dad jokes.
Yeah.
You know, he introduced me to dad jokes.
You know, it's interesting. As I walked in tonight, there was a guy you were talking to in the back, just as we came in the door, an older
The guy
fellow.
with the hearing. The guy with the
What
hearing
was that
aid?
conversation all about?
That was really weird. Nicest gentleman.
Yeah.
And he said, Jerry, I just got this new hearing aid.
Huh?
And he said, this is the finest hearing aid money can buy. And I said, yeah, well, what kind is it? He said, 4 o'clock.
I feel like I'm required to laugh at this.
She's laughing. This is your first time here. No. That's always the
so
test.
sad. That's so sad. Hey, let's talk about something that we've teamed up on with Music to Life Foundation. Great organization. Now, that's an organization that was started by Paul Stuckey of the legendary Peter, Paul and Mary, and his daughter, Liz Sunday, who is a very competent professional woman who runs basically the foundation. So we've started this thing, and we got to know them, and we've kind of become friends, and we went to New York, and we sat up there at a meeting of their board of advisors, and we came up with this idea called Songs Across America. So what this is, and it's being piloted in Cincinnati, is let's just talk Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, we are searching for artists from every genre, any genre. Spoken word artists like rappers, songwriters like Maria Corelli, whether it's bluegrass, folk, alternative, rock and roll, any genre. And we're calling on artists in the vein of Peter, Paul, and Mary who use part of their creative energy. They had a gift. And if you lived this era, and if you didn't, you can look it up, see stuff on YouTube. On the day that Martin Luther King gave the famous I Have a Dream speech, Peter, Paul, and Mary performed on the Mall, right, Jerry?
Yeah.
And they did, I think, Blowing in the Wind and probably We Shall Overcome. So Peter, Paul, and Mary, in every concert they did, and I've seen a bunch of them, would take part of the time and do some music that had heart.
Yeah.
That moved messages, that tried to get people to take action, whether it was the anti-war movement, the civil rights movement, through situations in Nicaragua in the 80s. I mean, the environmental movement. So Peter, Paul, and Mary, Pete Seeger, the Weavers, many groups did this. So Paul Stuckey has never forgotten that. He started this foundation, Music to Life, and they are now in Cincinnati putting out a call to Cincinnati songwriters, the Maria Corellis of the Cincinnati area, to make a proposal to spend some of their time in the near future to do music that will make things happen in the community. And here's where it gets really cool. Hook up with their chosen nonprofit. Could be homelessness, could be the environmental movement, could be poverty in schools. It's you pick it. And then make this proposal, and if you're selected, you will get a $5,000 grant. That's pretty nice, right, Maria? You would say, I mean, in light of the economics of an artist, $5,000's a nice little perk.
Yeah.
And
Plus-
finally, you could say you made it.
Yeah. plus another up to $5,000 for technical support. And Maria, that would help too. Like if you, and you and I have talked about this, and your schedule may or may not allow you to be one of the applicants, but to use you as an example, if somebody gets this cause in mind, works with a nonprofit, let's say makes a record that helps that nonprofit's cause and helps their clients, then the making of that record, there's more money still, the $5,000 technical support to help make that record. So there is some help to an artist. One will be selected for a March 4th of this year announcement. There's 3 others will receive up to $1,000, but the one grand winner will get the $5,000 stipend plus technical support. On March 4th, Paul Stuckey of Peter, Paul and Mary is coming to Cincinnati, joined by our own Jerry Springer. There is a home, a lovely home in a neighborhood called Hyde Park here in Cincinnati, where 2 gracious people are going to host a party, and people are going to get to come hear Paul Stuckey sing, the selected winning artists perform. They'll hear a few words from the nonprofit that artist is going to work with, and then we're going to ask them to take out their checkbooks, and we're going to try to raise $20 grand to sponsor this. So we have a $20,000 goal. We're going to do this in places like in Texas, California, New York, maybe Boca. We're going to move these around the country, hence it's called Songs Across America. This effort to get artists to use some of their creative time to do good in the community and to put our money where our mouths are, because we're all contributing to this. Liz Sunday and I are putting this all together, and Jerry, as I say, is going to be there on that day. So here's the bottom line. If you're an artist and you're hearing this, you're in the Cincinnati area, simply go to jerryspringer.com, and you'll see on that page, jerryspringer.com, and you'll see a big box that says Cincinnati Activist Musician Talent Search, and click on Apply. And what you'll do to apply is an up to 2-minute selfie video where you'll tell us what you want to work on and with whom you want to do that work, the nonprofit. By the way, if you don't have a nonprofit, we'll help you on that. If you say, I want to do good with homelessness, well, we know homelessness agencies that we can hook you up with. But you can tell us in your 2-minute selfie video what you want to do. There's a form you fill out with a little bit of verbiage. You could link songs that you've already done, link us to YouTube stuff if it exists. And we're going to pick, and like I said, it might be a rapper, it might be a blues singer, it might be a folk singer, but this whole thing's going to culminate on March 4th.
Super.
Yeah. So, again, local artists, if you're hearing this on our live feed on Facebook Live or in our archive version next Tuesday, we're recording this on January 30th. The deadline is February 11th.
The idea is to support music that supports social causes.
There it is.
And it's kind of relevant. It just dawned on me the other night as we're, this is January 30th as we're recording this, and 2 nights ago they had the Grammys. And they were very political this year. And Nikki Haley, the UN ambassador, who normally I would say was one of the better ones in the administration, not that there's a lot of competition, but she was one of the better lights in the Trump administration. But she came out and criticized the Grammys, saying, country?
Come on.
Music is an expression of people's lives. That's what they write about. That's what they sing about. And, I'm sure she wasn't complaining when, what was that, the USA, that they used to always play at the Republican convention.
Yeah. Born in the USA.
Or got
proud
to be an American, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, would she have
Greenwood.
complained about that?
Scott
Can't sing that. It's too political. So, that was just dumb.
Right.
But anyway, so we love the idea that a means of expression, because not everyone can give speeches, but virtually everyone can hum a tune. And, to have music that pushes causes that makes the world better, God bless it. We ought to have it. Are the lights being dimmed?
It's just preparing. It's just prepping.
When I talk, the lights
Mid-lighting.
go out. There's a song. Wasn't there the lights go out in? But, I don't know.
Well, again,
Yeah.
just one last mention, and this is like regular artists, not famous stars who may have lived once in Cincinnati, but if working artists, spoken word and songwriters, jerryspringer.com, and look for it. It's very prominent there. Cincinnati Activist Musician Talent Search. It's as simple as that. February 11th is the deadline, and we hope we will hear from you. All right. Let me ask you something, Jerry.
Yep.
Has President Donald Trump, is he going soft on immigration?
I wish he was changing his mind and softening up on his anti-immigration stance, but I don't really think so. Here's how I see. Right now, there are negotiations going on over DACA, and should we have a new immigration policy? He wants the wall. The American people would like to see something done with the 800,000 young people that were brought over to this country by immigrants, and these particular immigrants don't have their documents, but the children just came over because mom and dad said we're coming over, and the children have done nothing wrong, and they are going to grade school, junior high, high school, college, getting good jobs, committing zero crimes. I say zero crimes because if you commit a crime, then you're not eligible for DACA. And so there are those who obviously want to deport these 800,000, and that's what the debate is. Virtually every poll shows, and let's move away from DACA just for a second, every poll shows that 2/3 of the American people believe that Trump is some combination, and the words used, of either an idiot, a narcissist, a bigot, a crook, a total incompetent. Everybody has it. Even people that support him say, well, he's a little bit crazy. He's a narcissist. I wish he'd stop tweeting and all that kind of stuff. So we all agree on that, even people that like Trump. And yet, even though this is the conclusion of virtually all of America, I think he's still likely to survive his term, sadly, because the Republican congressmen and senators are virtually all more interested in getting reelected than they are in doing what's best for America. And that happens to be the truth. I mean, because in private conversations and even interviews, they will say, yeah, I don't approve of this, I don't approve of that. But when it comes time to cracking down on Trump, they all have his back. There's a reason for this. They want to get reelected. That's a given. For a Republican to be reelected, whether it's Congress or the Senate, there are two forces within the Republican Party for which they have to appease. The first is the big money crowd, Citizens United, the big organizations, the incredibly wealthy people that basically fund all Republican congressional and senatorial races. And not only do they fund all their races, but they also threaten that if they don't get the tax legislation they want, these rich people, rich interests, powerful interests, if they don't get the tax legislation they want, they will then fund the campaign of someone to run against these Republicans in the Republican primaries. That's their clout. Because of the way we gerrymander in the districts we have, some districts are overwhelmingly Republican and nothing's going to change that. The Democrat can't win there. But the power they have over these Republicans to toe the line is to say, we will fund someone to run against you in the primary unless you pass this tax legislation we want. That is the one group that has to be appeased if you are a Republican congressman or senator and you want to be reelected. The other group is what I call the nativist, white supremacist, anti-immigration, make America white again wing of the party. It is the party that basically anti-immigration, white supremacy, build a wall, stop anyone from coming over here, deport anybody with an accent or who's not white. That whole wing of the party, no matter how big it is, it's big enough for the Russia investigation. They won't do this because they will lose the next election. That's the reality. It isn't like, how can they still support Trump? They want to be reelected. 38 Republican congressmen and senators have decided not to run for reelection this time in totally safe districts. Why? Because they're going to be challenged in their own party's primary. And they know that. That is the clout of these two groups. Now, I'm not that worried. I don't get that bent out of shape with the money group. And not because I approve of their legislation, but it's not long-lasting. In other words, their philosophy of trickle down, that if you just give the wealthy interests a tax break, they'll go out and hire more people. We know historically that never, ever, ever, ever works. And so if in a few months, or certainly a year or two, when it's obvious that the trickle down didn't work and these jobs aren't suddenly there, then all of a sudden there'll be regulations back in place. There'll be some kind of corruption, some poisoning of the water someplace because they did away with the regulation. Those things get fixed because the public rises up and say, you duped us and we won't let you do it again. So I don't think that's as long-lasting a problem. The white supremacy problem, the racism problem, is very, very real in America. And we are seeing the manifestation of this, to get to your question, in this whole debate over DACA. Now, I said before that 80% of Americans, of Republican, Democrat, everyone kind of says, yeah, if a child is brought over here by mom and dad, regardless whether or not mom or dad have the proper documents, it's not the kid's fault. What kid is going to say, no, I'm not coming with you? You put your child in the car and that's it. So you can't punish the kids. And the kid has been here for 10 years now and is in school and is doing well and has a life. You don't suddenly deport the kid. Everyone kind of gets that. And so therefore, these white supremacist groups realize, no, we can't win on that issue. But let's use that issue as ransom. And here's where Trump is getting involved in it. What they're saying, which looks on the surface like, oh my gosh, Trump's getting soft on immigration as the Republicans are starting to bend. They're saying, and the headline is, Trump believes there should be a path to citizenship for these 800,000 kids. And everyone says, oh, that's wonderful. But then when they get into negotiation, they say, we'll support that, we'll give you the votes for that, but cut immigration in America in half. That is a cancer on the idea America. We can never, ever, ever let America no longer be a land of immigrants. It is who we are. And I'm not just talking about the morality of the issue, that this is the one place on earth where it didn't matter what your religion is, where you're from, who your parents are, you could come to America and pursue your dreams. That's the Statue of Liberty. That's who we are. But that, even putting that aside, if I can't appeal to you on moral grounds, how about practically speaking? Here's something we ought to recognize, and maybe if you took a drive across America, you'd notice. The communities that have no immigrants, they tend to be, almost without exception, the communities, oftentimes they're rural, lower education, lack of economic development, no cultural creativity. Young people aren't saying, when I grow up, I want to go to this town. And immigrants have a higher education level. Immigrants have a higher rate of starting their own businesses. Immigrants have less violent homes. And then I'm starting to think of my own situation because we came over as immigrants. And the reason the family is such a strong unit with immigrants is because when you first come over, that's what you got. You don't know people here. It's your family. So the family is very unified. And the parents say, you got to go out and get an education. Education becomes the top thing. Whether you're talking about Vietnamese kids, Mexican kids, Polish kids, the parents want their next generation to get an education. How many times do you go into a restaurant and it's an Italian family? They're opening an Italian restaurant. They're starting their own business. Immigrants have done that. That's the magic of America. If we just silently stand by and let them start cutting immigration and fall into this vicious, mean, let's make America white again, it is the end of the American century. We're better than that.
Well, that was a good one. Thanks, Jerry.
Sure.
Let me call Dave Hawkins forward. Let's hear it for Dave Hawkins, by the way. As Dave is getting set up, let me tell you a couple things about him. One is,
were you born here?
Here as in...
America?
No,
I thought you meant in this building.
Songwriter Stump. And that's on our website as well, jerryspringer.com. And if somebody has some music that they want to share with us that sometimes ends up being so good that we say, please come in and perform for us, Dave Hawkins is an example of that. So, and there's something else I want to just say before you start. I noticed this on the notes that I get from our music coordinator, Casey Campbell. There's a fundraiser coming up. Speaking of everything we were talking about before, about artists getting involved in change and issues, but there's a guy named Joe Donnelly, and he's a candidate here
in Indiana.
In Indiana, and he's bringing in as a guest, a draw to his fundraiser, Senator Chuck Schumer. He's pretty well known, and you're going to perform at that fundraiser, is that
Yeah, I'll
correct?
be at that fundraiser, correct.
Okay, very cool. So, Dave, welcome to the Jerry Springer Podcast, and start us off with a song that's called Somewhere Far Away that you wrote, correct?
Great, thank you. Yeah, I actually wrote this for, it's kind of for small businesses in small towns or small towns that are trying to become big towns and move people out in order to become that. So it's called Somewhere Far Away. You just said that. This has grown and moved on to New York, L.A., somewhere far away. It's a Walmart superstore. Harry's 5 and dime ain't no more. You can buy all kinds of plastic crap, like a Chinese-made Old Glory baseball cap. Mom and Pop's grocery gone. Kids have grown and moved on to New York, L.A., somewhere far away. Every time I go back home to the city streets I used to roam, I gotta cry as I look around. There's a concrete nightmare that once was my town. Mom and Pop's grocery gone. Kids have grown and moved on to New York, L.A., somewhere far away. New York,
Dave Hawkins. That's a good song. Dave, tell us where can people hear your music?
DaveHawkins.com.
Okay.
Which same as my name. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, there you go. We saw that.
And
Last name.com?
I'm sorry?
Your last name is .com?
Yes, it is.
He's a smart ass, isn't he, Dave? I mean, we can say it.
There, and then I play around town when I'm not on the road.
All right, around town, meaning the greater Cincinnati
the greater
area.
Cincinnati area, yeah.
Because you're from around Cincinnati. Where are you?
Yeah, my wife and I live up in College Hill.
Okay, which is a neighborhood in Cincinnati.
College
yeah.
Hill, yeah. And I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
As opposed to some other Columbus.
Yep.
And this coming Saturday, I'm actually playing. Very rarely I get my whole band together. So this Saturday I'll be playing at the Fretboard Brewing Company up in Blue Ash.
Okay.
Another Cincinnati town, I guess.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And I'll be there with my good friend and fiddle player for almost 20 years now, Peg Buchanan, and my band, The Perfect Men.
Okay, sounds good.
Which includes Michael Ronstadt, who's Linda's nephew.
Oh, wow, that's right.
Yeah, he's been on the show.
So you don't want to see me, but Michael will be there. So that's.
Hey, by the way, have you, Dave? Have you done this forever, or is this a new thing of playing music? Did you do it full time? Tell us about that.
Last year I celebrated my 40th anniversary of doing this professionally.
No kidding.
And full time since 1991-92.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
The album that came out last May was my 8th album.
Yeah, see, we think here at the Jerry Springer Podcast, this is very cool, and we celebrated Maria Corelli's same effort. She's a young woman that's doing this full time, and you've been doing it.
Maria, she's a great musician.
She is. So we compliment you all who do this. This is your passion. Do a second song for us. This one's called "As Long as We Get There."
Yes, this
Dave
is,
Hawkins.
An introspective song that's the title cut of the new album. Looking at a picture of a young man with a beer in one hand, a smoke in the other, knowing that life would last forever. Looking in the mirror, there's an old man clinging to a walker with one hand, copy of the good book by his side, knowing that forever had arrived. Can we ever know where life's gonna go? Do we need to care as long as we get there together? Well, the old man woke up one day, found he still had a lot to say, clutching his guitar in his hand, sleeping in cheap motels across the land. He spent a lifetime playing guitar, probably spent a little too much time hanging in bars, hoping one day he'd have it made. Now he figures he's just old and in the way. Can we ever know where life's gonna go? Do we need to care as long as we get there together? Now the wisdom that comes with age replaces youthfulness full of rage. Transgressions that once cost a mother's tears become regrets in later years. Now I'm looking at that young man in the photo. I'm telling myself he's someone that I don't know. Looking in the mirror, what do I see? I realize that young man is me. Could I ever have known where this life of mine was gonna go? Did I need to care as long as we got here together? Looking at a picture of a young man with a beer in one hand, a smoke in the other, knowing that life would last forever. I just knew that my life would last forever.
It's always fun because we never know exactly what we're going to get with you.
Just add a little bit more to my check and we'll be good.
Yeah. Oh, you got it. Yeah. I'll leave the money part blank. Put in whatever you want.
Yeah.
Here we go. Dave Hawkins, Down by the Riverside.
I'm gonna talk with the Prince of Peace down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna talk with the Prince of Peace down by the riverside and study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Y'all come back now, you hear? Holy cow.
We've got a really special guest next week, the syndicated host of the Wood Songs Old Time Radio Hour, Mr. Michael Jonathan, will be here with us next week. So he'll be our musical guest. We'll see you then.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much, guys.